Welcome to Round Glass. My name is Vishvapani Blomfield, and thank you for joining me for this session in my series, Beyond Breathing. So, in today's practice, we're going to be getting to know the breath. We're going to be exploring the sensations of breathing. But first, we'd love to hear from you. What inspires you to explore meditation? Why are you doing this? So you can use the chat to let us know and share your motivation. So in a way, meditation is very simple. Mindfulness is very simple, but its effects can be very, very strong, very profound, and in surprising ways. So one of the kinds of teaching I've done is in prisons and in probation hostels. I did quite a lot of work with people in that situation. And one course that I did was in a probation hostel for a group of people who'd recently come out of prison. And one of them was a young guy. He was maybe about 20 years old, who'd just been in trouble all his life. And we did the meditation, and of course, I didn't know anything much about these people or what their experience was. So I just did a simple meditation on the breath as a taster. This is what you might experience on the course if you choose to join it. At the end of that, I asked the group, what was your experience? And this young guy, whose name was Stuart, said, well, that was the first time in my life that I've ever experienced a sense of peace when my mind wasn't going at 100 miles an hour with thoughts careering through it. And that moment really changed him. He came on the course and he got on very well. And he clearly had something like ADHD, but the mindfulness was a tool, the breath, being able to just sit still, give his attention to something helpful, was accessed something for him in his mind he never had access to before. His natural capacity to be calm and settled. And the breath is that link there for all of us to our capacity to settle ourselves. And the reason is it's a link to the body. Breath is natural. When we meditate using the breath, we aren't trying to change it. Our body knows how to breathe. We breathe in, we breathe out, and we do that about 11,000 times every single day, which is 4 million or so a year. And you can multiply that by the years you've been alive to see how many times your body has breathed. So we know how to breathe. And we just tune into that. We're not doing some elaborate breathing exercise. The only proviso is that as we do this, we may notice that we have habits of holding on. So an attitude that we can bring is just letting the breath flow in its natural way. But rather than thinking about how we ought to breathe, and we can very easily have ideas that we're doing this wrong, we can start with just getting to know the breath, exploring how it feels. And that's what we're going to be doing today in the practice. And we're going to be drawing on what are called breath explorations, which were developed by a yoga teacher called Donafari and quite widely used. And I find this is a really good way in to what in Buddhism we call the mindfulness of breathing, breath awareness, which is the kind of most common, the most basic of all the different Buddhist meditation practices. Basic, but that doesn't mean superficial. We can always come back to the breath. We can always explore it more fully. And the breath, it connects us to the body. So Well, thank you for sharing your experiences of what inspires you to explore meditation. And here's a few things I'm reading: desire to feel centered, to be focused, desire for stress relief. My teacher, interesting. Finding clarity again, not just finding clarity again. And also then reading about its benefits. So that's interesting. A whole range of people with different experiences. Whatever your motivation is, that is the perfect motivation. Stay in contact with that. And let's see how we get where we get to as we do the practice. So we just start with finding a way to sit. It's fine to do this lying down. Actually, the breath inquiry that we're doing lends itself to lying down. We can also do it sitting up. If you're on a chair, make sure you're reasonably upright, not just slumping down. And you need to be comfortable. You need to be alert. So let's just close our eyes if that feels okay. It's also all right, if it's right for you, to have your eyes open or maybe slightly open, but not looking all around. And that helps us to make a transition. We're shifting modes from a very active mode that we've probably been in, certainly a thinking mode, to something quieter, more settled, more connected to the body. Okay, so maybe we'll take a deeper breath now. So let's just breathe in nice and slow. Breathe out nice and slow. Okay, and we're going to do this again, and we'll notice a sense of rising and swelling as we breathe in, and as we breathe out, softening, easing, releasing. So the body knows how to let go. And if we want to let go of thoughts, then, well, we can do that every time we breathe out. So breath rising, breath falling, just noticing that. So we'll start with a big picture of the body, feeling the body contacting the floor. And where we feel the contact, at the feet, at the knees, at the bottom, having a sense of the pressure, touch, just sensing that. So we bring our awareness into those points of contact. And then also feeling the body rising up, nice and tall, chest open, soft chest. Something that I find helpful is just to bring our attention to the face. Just imagine the eyes becoming soft. So we let go of looking, and the face, the cheeks become soft. We let go of how we look to the world. Just let it go. Let it go. And what's here? So there may be thoughts, there may be feelings. We'll keep those in our awareness. There's also the breath. So the body isn't still, even when we sit still. The body's moving. And that large feeling of rising and falling, we may have noticed when we took a deeper breath, is still there. So we can notice the breath in this general way, but I'm going to invite you to place a hand. Okay? So we're going to place this hand on the chest. And even if you're very used to this, it can be good to change things around. It can be good to explore in a different way. So what do we feel with our hand? What do we feel as we breathe? So we're probably feeling the touch, the pressure of the hand, contact of the hand. And then also feeling the movement of the muscles. Just sensing what's there. And we're exploring how the chest moves with the breath. So perhaps we're noticing the muscles doing a lot of work, like you're on a parade ground. So just let them soften. Using the hand to sense, and then using our internal sense, our proprioception, our capacity to feel the body. And having our hand here brings awareness to the heart, and maybe to how we're feeling, maybe to a certain kind of energy. Perhaps we notice that. If not, that's fine. Perhaps we just notice muscles moving. Okay, we're going to bring the hand down now to the tummy. We're going to have both hands, if this works for you, if this is okay, resting lightly on the tummy. And just feeling how the tummy moves. We probably know what the tummy looks like as it moves up and down with the breath. So now we're augmenting that with touch. Just using the hands, which are so sensitive, to feel the movement of the tummy, the extension, the release, the rising, the settling. And it's okay to take our time over this. If you're sitting up, your hands, your arms might start to get tired, in which case just rest them on your knees. If you're lying down, you'll feel a very full movement coming from the back. And what happens when we're doing this is that what we feel is the abdomen rising and falling. The abdomen is a muscle, a set of muscles. But what is making the abdomen rise and fall? It's not the lungs, because the lungs are elsewhere. So perhaps we can sense that there's something that billows down. It's called the diaphragm. And as it does, it displaces the muscles, pushes the tummy up, and then it relaxes, it softens, and the air leaves the body. So the diaphragm extends and softens. And that's what's happening naturally in the body. The diaphragm is doing a lot of the work of breathing. So in this way, we can sense how the breath flows. Billows down, billows up. This is an exploration. So it's noticing different things. Now you may notice, for example, if your fingers are close to each other, noticing how they separate as we breathe in and they come together as we breathe out. So there's a sort of swelling or separating movement in the tummy. As we become aware of the breath, we may just start to get curious about where else we feel the breath. If you like, you can move your hands elsewhere, maybe noticing the movement of the shoulders, for example. This gentle movement of the shoulders we notice. Or perhaps taking the hands around the back to the kidney area, the lower back. And you may notice there's quite a lot of movement there. As we move, breathe in, as we breathe out. So we can continue to use the hands or just place the hands down and use our internal awareness of the body to keep on exploring. And I won't guide this. I'll mention a few different things that you might want to notice, you might notice. So one of them is the air in the nostrils. Perhaps that calls your attention. Or perhaps there's something else. There's the air in the windpipe. There's the movement of the back ribs, which gently and subtly brush against our clothing. There's maybe a subtle sense of swaying to and fro. Are the legs affected? This may be very, very subtly, so you really need to tune in. Just going wherever in the body calls to your attention. And as we do this, we have always to bear in mind our thoughts. Just noticing how there can be thoughts in our mind even as we're settling on the breath. And just having an attitude of letting them go, letting them go and coming back. Now, maybe we can notice which of all of these different sensations is the strongest. Which one do we feel calling to us? What feels like the most natural focus? And just letting our attention rest there. So it might, for example, be the tummy. The tummy moves more than other parts of the body, usually. And there we can start to notice any of the subtler aspects of that movement. How does it feel to settle the mind on that? Of course, we have a general idea of the breath, general sense of the breath, but it's not very often that we really explore it so we can notice afresh. Millions and millions of breaths have passed through our body. Each breath is slightly different. It's unique, like a snowflake. And we're just going to move gradually towards the end of the practice, which is to say, if you want to finish the practice now. Another way that you can engage with what we're doing is to take this as the starting point for a longer practice. So if we are moving towards the end, then just inclining our attention in that direction. And then very gently starting to just bring some movement into the body. And rolling the shoulders, perhaps. Moving the fingers. When you're ready, just open your eyes. And even now, we've sort of formally ended the practice, but just taking time to absorb what we've done, to absorb what happened today. What did you notice? This was a practice very much about exploring, noticing, coming at the breath in a fresh way. So, what did you notice? It's nice to see a comment in the chat. Letting go of looking was a new concept for me. I'll take that off the cushion. Okay, good. I'm glad you found that helpful. And thank you for the idea of breath explorations. I enjoyed adventuring with my breath today. Will repeat. Good. Okay. Thanks so much for that. It's great to have that interaction. this was an inquiry. This was about bringing curiosity to our experience of the breath. And yes, keep exploring. And we can notice how the breath is when we're meditating, but we can also notice how the breath is at different times. It's very common when we get excited, the breath becomes shorter. What happens when we feel anxious? What happens when we feel sad? What happens when we are feeling stressed? Noticing the breath in all these ways and maybe connecting it with the idea of flow, because that can be a helpful idea to have about the breath at any time of the day. So in that inquiry, we're also noticing just the variety of sensations in different parts of the body. And I encourage you, as we do this exploration of the breath, not to just look at it in one way, not just to focus on one bit. You can change it. You can look at the breath here and here and here and here and so on, and it feels quite different. So exploring that, and also the fact that the breath is never still, it's never stops, it's alive. The breath flows, and there's this rhythm of the breath. It's like an ocean. Ripples, the ocean rippling out, the tides rippling out and then drawing back. If that's an image, you might find that image helpful. You might find other images helpful. But I think it's really helpful with exploring the breath to have a sense that we're engaging with something that's very natural. We're not forcing the breath. We're bringing our mind, which is quite complicated often, or quite full, to something that's already there and that's naturally soothing, and where we can give ourselves to that experience of noticing. I think that's what happened to Stuart, the young man in the probation office. He was able to find something to absorb himself in, and all those thoughts were no longer the focus of his attention. There was something else that was the focus. So sometimes you tell people about a practice like this, meditation on the breath, and they'll say, well, that sounds a bit boring. But there's so much going on with the breath. If we can be alive to what's actually there, then it won't be boring, and it will be pleasurable. And also, as we explore the breath, we notice the way in which the breath is connected to our energy, to our emotions, so to all sorts of dimensions of our experience. It's a really rich practice, and we're going to keep on exploring it through this series. I'm going to finish with some words on the breath by the mindfulness teacher Vidyamala Birch. So she says, the rhythm of respiration is echoed throughout nature, in the internal respiration of the cells, the ebb and flow of the tides, the waxing and waning of the moon, and the pulse of the seasons. Fish, birds, even the most basic cellular life forms follow the rhythm of respiration, taking in, giving back, moving up and down, in and out. Look at the pulsing movement of a jellyfish that glides through the sea by displacing water. Even plants have respiration that echoes our own. These natural rhythms also change endlessly. No two tides are exactly the same size or duration, and our breath is likewise continually varied within its basic rhythm, with each breath having a unique quality. So thank you for sharing this time, and please continue to explore your meditation practice with us, check out our daily live meditations at round.glass or on our app. Have a great day, keep breathing and keep growing.